News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Friday on Wall Street, where traders drove stocks higher in the countdown to the earnings season, and SK Hynix jumped in its debut. And we bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 32 points. Nasdaq gained 75 points. The Dow gained 150 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.56% and the 2-year yield at 4.2%. Now, we'll get back to the markets shortly, but first, President Trump says the U.S. will continue talks with Iran, but he considers the ceasefire between the countries to be over. Former U.S. Ambassador to Iraq and Turkey, James Jeffries.
We are talking with the Iranians, but if Iran keeps the straits closed one way or the other, we will reinstitute the blockade and we will take further economic and potentially military measures to return Iran to the memorandum of agreement we signed in June. I think that's the way we're going.
Former Ambassador James Jeffries on balance of power. At least 2 oil supertankers appeared to have crossed the Strait of Hormuz on a U.S. protected route. The level of observable oil tanker traffic through the strait has slowed in the past 24 hours. Checking crude oil prices now, they're lower. WTI topping $71 a barrel, Brent crude topping $76 a barrel. Chip stocks on the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index gained about 0.2% in regular trading, led by NVIDIA, which jumped more than 3% in regular trading. SK Hynix is trading in the U.S. under the ticker SKHY. ADRs surged above their offering price after the company raised $26.5 billion in the largest ever U.S. listing by a foreign company. Bloomberg's Ed Ludlow sat down with SK Group's chairman, Che Tae-wan, who says he has a much bigger investment plan, and today's debut is just the beginning.
We've been already investing at more than $35 billion in U.S. side, and not many people notice those things, but my plan is at much bigger numbers.
Hear our entire interview with SK Group's chairman, Che Tae-wan, on the Bloomberg Talks podcast. SK Hynix ended the day near $170. And SK Hynix CEO Kwok No-jung tells Bloomberg that the memory chip shortages that are roiling the computer, car, and device markets will probably persist beyond 2030. Nasdaq President Nelson Griggs spoke on the international appeal.
If you look at this year, of the top 10 raises, 4 have been international. Now, 3 of them, this is one of them with SK Hynix, but you had Bending Spoons go public, yes. PayPay, INEO, very large deals that felt the U.S. capital markets gave them the best valuation. So I think we're having more of those conversations than ADR type listings, but both have a lot of momentum behind them.
Nasdaq President Nelson Griggs speaking with Bloomberg News. On Capitol Hill, President Trump is refusing to sign a bipartisan housing bill in protest over a stalled voting measure. Trump wants lawmakers to send him the so-called Save America Act, which is stalled in the Senate. But the White House says the housing legislation will become law even without Trump's signature, as long as he does not issue a veto. There are no longer any active members on the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. President Trump effectively relieved all 3 serving commissioners. The commission is supposed to have 4 members. One seat was already vacant. President Trump fired the 2 Democratic members, and the remaining Republican was allowed to resign. The commission's bipartisan mission is to help election officials improve the administration of elections and help Americans participate in the voting process. But with midterms right around the corner, the agency can't take any action until the president nominates new members and the Senate confirms them. Delta Airlines beat estimates, saying strong demand for premium corporate and international travel helped offset higher fuel costs. Stephen Trent is president of SDT Capital Advisors.
Unit revenue was very strong, and I think that's the story people are talking about. Are these carriers maintaining demand with everything going on? Are they able to raise unit revenue enough to offset what's happening with jet fuel kerosene? I think the answer is yes.
Stephen Trent is with SDT Capital Advisors, and in regular trading, Delta shares lost about 2%. A Ryanair flight made an emergency landing in Greece after a window on the Boeing 737 dislodged after takeoff, reportedly because it was hit by a piece that came off the engine. Several media outlets reported one passenger was partly sucked out of that broken window. The 61-year-old Serbian man is currently hospitalized with friction burns and is being checked and treated for other injuries. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.